a politics question. I mentioned in the intro tonight that you say in the book really bluntly that your personal first choice for your running mate would have been Pete Buttigieg, and you praise him effusively. You say he would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight man. And you say effectively that demographically it was too much to ask of the American people to ask them to elect you with him as your running mate. I wonder if his reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out, if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear. Yeah. With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
that
we had such a short period of time, and the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made, and I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
This is Vice President Kamala Harris addressing some very interesting questions during perhaps her most high-profile interview since her election loss back in November. Kamala seems to be doing a press run for her book, 107 Days. In this book, we've seen excerpts where she really doesn't pull any punches. She talks about Governor Newsom ghosting her after he said he was hiking, just never calling her back on the day that Biden dropped out. She also talks about Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I just showed you the clip right there. She had to answer a tough question about his sexuality and how that played into her decision not to choose Pete Buttigieg. There's also Zohran Mamdani, which she addresses. She addresses basically everything, so I want to walk you through some clips, because as the Democratic Party is reshaping and looking for new leaders, Kamala Harris is still perhaps the most high-profile politician of the party, aside from Newsom and AOC at the moment, due to her run. And in this book, she says a lot of unique things. She also cites concerns about trans athletes at one point. Really quickly, this reads, Kamala Harris, in her new memoir, expresses reservations about transgender athletes competing in girls' sports teams, echoing other national Democrats who have voiced a position long associated with conservatives. President Donald Trump's campaign hammered Harris over her position on trans rights over and over and over. Kamala Harris said, quote, I agree with the concerns expressed by parents and players that we have to take into account biological factors such as muscle mass and unfair student athletic advantage when we determine who plays on which teams, especially in contact sports. Quote, with goodwill and common sense, I believe we can come up with ways to do this without vilifying and demonizing children. So the key words is that she agrees with the concerns expressed by some parents and some players, and she wants to do this in a way is goodwill, common sense, and doesn't vilify anybody. In this next clip, Vice President Kamala Harris addresses Gavin Newsom, his redistricting plan, and the fact that he apparently ghosted her.
Well, let me ask you on that gerrymandering front. The White House has been very aggressive, pushing Republican-led states to gerrymander their maps to effectively give Republicans a major edge heading into the midterms next year. That has led to related responsive Democratic efforts, including in your home state of California. Do you support Democrats' effort to kind of fight fire with fire there? Will you be involved in that California measure, for example?
I absolutely support it. You mentioned Gavin earlier. By the way, Gavin has a great sense of humor, so you know, he's going to be fine. But
did you warn him about the hiking thing? You did.
Yeah,
okay.
I've known Gavin forever. He literally has a great sense of humor. But let me say about what he is doing with redistricting, it is absolutely the right way to go. Part of what we've got to, I think, challenge ourselves to accept is that we tend to play by the rules. But I think this is a moment where you got to fight fire with fire. And so what Gavin is doing, what the California legislature is doing, what those who are supporting it are doing to say, you know what, you want to play? Then let's get in the field, let's get in the arena, and let's do this. And I support that.
I'm glad Kamala supports it. I say we go further than fighting fire with fire. We've tried to play civility politics for the past 10 years while Republicans, mainly Donald Trump, breaks every norm, and then the Republicans beneath him run endless defense while he erodes and shreds what makes America great. So I say we fight fire with fire, but we go further. Rather than just responding to Donald Trump's authoritarian acts, we should take preemptive measures. For example, what Governor Gavin Newsom did is he set this deadline for Donald Trump. He said, if you don't stop your redistricting by this deadline, we are going to enact our own plan. Then Governor Gavin Newsom started a proactive plan, and it's working out. It's gaining attention, and it's pushing back. Here's Kamala Harris addressing Donald Trump, talking about the campaign, and then we'll go to the Zohran Mamdani clip.
Against him.
So, you know, Earl, I also talk about, you know, the first 2 weeks that I was the top of the ticket, we had no polling, because no polling had been done on me. So it was my gut.
Yeah.
And so I came up with this speech that actually was about, you know, I was a prosecutor. I dealt with people who engaged in sexual abuse. I was attorney general. I took on people who engaged in fraud, on and on and on. And so I know his type.
I remember this line, yeah.
And because there is, you know, there's something about in the English language that phrase, I know his type, that does a lot of work for you. Because it's something we all relate to, whether it was that boss, it was that person, whatever. I know his type. And so the character that I knew I was running against is someone, because he has shown it also. I mean, he did it with President Obama. He did it with Secretary Clinton. He throws this stuff out that he thinks will be an individual's weakness or Achilles heel, with the intent to distract from the fact that, as it was in this campaign, he had no plan for actually bringing down costs and prices for the American people. He had very few plans for what he would actually do that was about the American people and not about an execution of his vengeance on his enemies.
And by the way, now we see this manifesting day by day. This dude has no plan whatsoever. Here's the Zohran Mamdani clip. Afterwards, we'll break it down.
The folks who you met with in this way include some of the people who you see very frequently now on MSNBC. Jasmine Crockett, Angela Also Brooks, Maxwell Frost, Robert Garcia Moore. Arguably the fastest rising star right now in Democratic politics is Zohran Mamdani, who is going to be elected mayor of New York City, and probably in a landslide if the polls are anything to go by. Lots of mainline Democrats have been very shy about his candidacy. They seem somewhat flummoxed by his success. As a sort of talent spotter in the Democratic Party, what do you think of him and his candidacy, and what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported. Do
you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, you know, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, I mean, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama, Helena Moreno in New Orleans, they're all running for mayor too, and they are stars. So I hope that we don't so over-index on New York City that we lose sight of the stars throughout our country who are right now running for mayor and many other offices, governor, and so on. So that's where I am.
I am glad that Kamala Harris endorsed Zohran Mamdani. Now, at the end, she brought up a few other candidates, like Barbara Drummond from Alabama, who's a great candidate. She also brought up Helena Moreno, another great candidate from New Orleans. And I'm glad that she brought attention to other candidates, but it did feel like a little bit of a sidestep. Like, Zohran Mamdani is a uniquely what's it called? He's like a firebrand right now in New York City who's kind of reshaping what the party could look like. So it's interesting that she was a little bit hesitant. She was like, sure, I do endorse him. I wish a lot of the mainstream Democrats would be like, yeah, this is the party. This is how we're going to push. Even if you disagree with him on some sort of policy prescription that he clearly has the messaging apparatus right, and we should be embracing that to the fullest extent. Let's finish this clip of Kamala Harris talking about Donald Trump.
And I wasn't about to fall for that bait. And the stakes were too high. The stakes were too high. You can't get in the gutter with that guy because that is the way that he distracts from the fact that, for example, right now, he promised the people who voted for him that on day one he'd bring down prices. And I do believe, Rachel, that's one of the main reasons that the people who voted for him elected him because they believed he would do it. He lied. We're now in a position where unemployment is up, inflation is up, the cost of groceries is up. So, you know, as the folks used to say, don't fall for the okie doke.
And it's all self-inflicted, too. I mean, the economy was not in the best position. Wealth inequality has been getting worse for a while now, but it was at least landing in a steady position after COVID, after Biden brought it back, and now Trump is screwing it up again. I'll leave it there. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed, no matter what platform you're watching on, whether it's YouTube, Facebook. Love you guys, and peace out.